of all of that. And then, of course, construction began, and it took, well, it was less than a year, but the first building was built then. And that's the Christ Church. Christ Church, we, in fact, they loaned us the money for the land, and then eventually, when we went to build the church and start the building, they said, well, we're going to forgive that loan and we're going to let you have that land. And I'll never forget, we were at a mission meeting to listen to Christ Church say that. And what surprised me is somebody, one of our mission members, said, well, I don't know whether we ought to do this or not. And I said, no, wait a minute. They're going to give us the money. Why even talk about it? And so it was really funny, but they gave us the money, so we didn't have to come up with that money. But pledges, by the way, were quite ample to cover all these expenses. And then we had in 1961, I think it was May 5th or so, was when we marched from the Eastover School behind the Salvation Army Band, and we marched to the church for the first service that was held there.
Oh, I remember it was simply wonderful. The police stopped the traffic on Adams Road, and people came I know that people from our neighborhood in Charnwood drove down and parked along the side of the road to watch this. And, well, it was just wonderful. It was exciting. It was great. So we arrived at the church, and the bishop was there, of course. And he knocks on the door.
And I remember, too, that my son, who was 1 year old at the time, was baptized at that service. And so anyway, we moved into the church and the original building, and everything went fine from there on.
That's a very hard question to answer. Of course there are changes. Number one, there are more people, which is a good thing. I mean, there's more emphasis maybe, I think there's more emphasis on outreach. And I think, frankly, that we do a wonderful job of outreach at St. Stephen's. Now, I think our social outreach is a little different. It's more of a, really what I see now is more of a one-to-one situation. For instance, going up to Baldwin Church and Center on those Fridays, that's a one-to-one thing.
Here, oh, and the one thing that I think a difference is the children. And our children today are very active, and there are just lots of them, and that's a great thing. Now, we did have a lot of kids back then, but they weren't as much in the foreground as the children are today.
It seems to me we struggle more with the economics of the place than we did even in the beginning when we didn't know where our next cent was coming from. As a matter of fact, in the beginning, along about in the early 60s, there was a survey or something done that St. Stephen's average donation per week was like the second highest in the diocese. It was amazing.
Well, I think it was very good. When I look back, I've never been a deeply religious person, nor was my wife, but it really influenced our lives greatly, being involved in this and going to church, which we had never done regularly before.
Well, it certainly made it better. It enlarged it, shall we say, made it firmer. You came to realize that this was your family. And never more was that true than when Bill and our family were in that horrible automobile accident in 1967. Everybody just rallied around like you wouldn't believe, since we were completely out of it for so long. And it really is just, I don't know what I'd do without St. Stephen's and what they've taught me.
I think so, because it's kind of a time of sacrifice, Phil, where you, we need money, and you put in more money than you maybe can even afford, and whereas today, well, people are doing it today too, I'm sure, with tough times and in the financial community and so forth. So they're going through a lot of the stuff that we did in a way. But a lot of it is financial, I think.
Kind of experience.
Sure. Sure. I think, time today seems to be so much more crowded for these younger families. I'm sure a part of it is because 9 times out of 10, both the parents work. The children are going to this, that, and the other thing constantly. We didn't have that sort of thing back then. I just think we had more time. Now you struggle to get a meeting on a day when people can come. So I think, sure, you do miss some of that.
Well, there probably are, Phil, but I can't remember them all off the top of my head.
No, I can't think of anything now, but I will when I go home. No. It's just a wonderful place.